Hey there, I'm Jess Ray. I've got a new record, and that means I've got new songs to talk about. So on this season of the podcast, I sit in my own kitchen and I talk to a couple of my best friends, and we go through the whole album song by song. We pull on threads and follow themes and see where the conversation leads. And as you listen along, I hope that you find something that you're looking for along the way. Thanks for being here. Well, hey guys.
Hey. Hi.
Welcome back.
Again.
We are at it again. Yep. Can we get a cheers? We just made some chai.
Cheers.
We're going to cheers our chai. Chai
also,
cheers.
Jess has the best mug selection.
Absolutely.
So
we have too many. If anyone wants some, we could.
If the music thing doesn't work out, just sell all your mugs.
Yes,
truly.
that's true.
I want to be first on the list.
I needed an extra $15.
I don't know. Your mugs are nice.
I mean, yeah, I guess they are.
Yeah, they're like, I'm going to
that's
go
a fun
30.
thing
I'm going to go
if you can get
30.
it home safely, that's a fun thing to collect places.
Mm-hmm.
But then we broke one, and then you have to go back to Wales to get another.
Oh, that is tragic.
But yeah, thank you. We're gathered here to talk more. And I'm pretty excited about it. I mean, we're going to take a deep dive this time.
As opposed to the other dives.
Yeah,
we've been taking.
just
Very shallow.
Just shallow waters this whole time.
Indeed.
Excited to talk about Uncharted Lands today. And why don't we kick things off with, I'll show you guys the song.
Just remembered that I'm going to cry. I forgot I had to listen to it.
You did not bring tissues.
Grandmama had the softest skin, a tender voice and the kindest grin. What I would give to be with her again. There is no going back to it. Granddaddy had the hardest heart. I saw it soften as the years went on. But if your baby dies in your arms, there is no coming back from it. There was no coming back from it. My dad was born against the odds. His life a miracle, however flawed. His heart is broken now and bent toward God. And I'm learning from him. My mama was a pretty baby. I've only known her as a saintly lady. Some point they were in love enough to make me, and I thank them for it. Yeah, I thank them for it. Like a word coming out of their mouth, I am the imprint of their nature. My brothers are the best of men. At times we've been the best of friends. Even now I see the best in them. They're out where none before have been. I'm older and I'm married now. Sure wish someone would have shown me how. Do we have what it takes to stick it out in these uncharted lands? these uncharted lands.
Stephen Young playing like 5 different brass instruments.
My son will have a golden heart, my daughter like a work of art. They will walk the ground that I could not, in their own uncharted lands, out in their own uncharted lands. Like a word coming out of my mouth, they are the imprint of my nature.
Me too. We should have gotten tissues for this.
Well, there's that one.
Well, I guess we'll start with the softball. When did you write this? How did you write this? What prompted this?
Yeah, I was at the beach alone. Yeah, I don't know when that was. Maybe 2023 or 22 even? I don't know. It was years ago. Yeah, I had a few days alone to write music, and late one night, I was taking a shower. I was about to hop in the shower, and I noticed this picture of my mom on the shelf. So it was at the beach. It's my mom's house that she got from my grandparents. So it's full of my grandparents' things, and even a picture of my mom as a younger than 1 year old. She's so beautiful in this photo. And I remember thinking, my mom was such a pretty baby. And then I get in the shower and I'm kind of like thinking, and I'm like, my mama was a pretty baby. And that is actually the start of the song.
That's so cool.
Isn't that weird?
It is for such a different.
Because like it has nothing to do with the song.
It doesn't seem like it's what it's going to be.
So for it to be the very first line that was written is so funny to me. But then like, baby, make me, like I was just like, saintly lady, like I was playing with all those phrases together, and that's how I ended up with that verse. And then I knew I needed to work backwards, obviously, because I had started to mention my dad clearly by the end of that. That's how I came to be. So I had to start working backwards, and I kept working backwards up into my grandparents, and then I had those 4 verses. So I got my grandma, grandpa, my mom, my dad.
And these are your mom's parents.
This is my dad's parents. Okay. Yep. And then maybe later that night, I start to keep going. And then I wrote my brother's verse, and then me and Kyle's verse. And then still I'm like, but then what comes after that? And then it's like, who's after us? And so I write a verse about our kids that, the hard part of that is like, that's not come true yet. Yeah. But I don't regret writing that one bit. And so I wrote that verse, and I think I wrote the whole song, between about 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. I've hardly changed anything about it since that, and the piano part and everything, the melody. It was just one of those like cathartic, it's just like, it has happened maybe 2 or 3 times in my life where I have just said what my heart wanted to say, and in like somewhat of a one push, and that whole thing came out, and it was just like, just obviously beautiful, complicated, beautiful like thing to be able to just sum up who I am in a song. And so obviously incredibly personal, and it's been a long journey to feel like I want to share it with the world, and so I'll be learning how to do that, but I'm kind of happy to like let what I've said be what I've said. you know? I don't need to say a ton more about it. I mean, I'm excited to talk about what I'm getting at with the song. But yeah, it's sweet for me to have gotten to put me in context, you know, in a song.
Yeah. I feel like as someone who has walked beside you through a lot of different
you
life,
have,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, just like, I think for me, my experience of listening to this song, and for other people who are close with you, is like a lot of like memories and things like flood into my mind, and just like stories of family members that I don't know that you've told before, or family members that I do know. And so there's like a particular experience of like the beauty of seeing your friend in the midst of this legacy of life and of family, and like the positive and the difficult things that kind of combine to make us who we are, and how we both grapple with that, and then just like praise God and bless him for what he's given us in it. So there's kind of like that journey as your friend listening to it. And I think anyone could cry listening to it, but it's like a specific thing when it's your friend, or you're just like, you know, and thinking about, you know,
That's just what Kat looked like about 3 minutes ago.
Yes. Ooh. Yes. Yeah. And so there's the beauty of that, and the beauty of like your vulnerability, and just like being ready to go there. Ultimately, though, the goal of that, I know, being like, you're not sharing it so that everyone can just know.
Yeah.
It's not that specific, but that more details of your life. Like, I know you're sharing it because there's something you want to like speak to that's true of everyone.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if you could expand on that.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a great way of explaining this now that I've picked up really from other songwriters. Okay. Let me see if I can articulate this. Well, for one, when I played this for one of my friends who she is adopted, she listened to the whole song, and then at the end, she was like, man, I just sat there and I thought, when did my biological mom and dad meet? That's my first time ever having that thought, that my mom and dad met sometime and made me, you know? So actually, she sat there, listened to the whole song, and was not thinking about me.
Yep.
You know, she's not thinking about my story. Right. And then my other great example of this is there's an Andy Squires song that I just cried like the first 5 times I heard this song. And in the bridge, it says something like, pray with me and Terry, call your stepdad Gary, let him off the hook for having dreams that he miscarried. And I just, every time I would hear that, it would hit me in the heart, and I would just start crying. Not because I have a stepdad, not because I have a stepdad named Gary, but I do have parents who have miscarried dreams, you know, and they've done the best they could. And I'm flooded with forgiveness for them and tenderness for them because of some make-believe man named Gary in the song. You know what I mean? So I think my desire in sharing it is that in the specifics of my life, people would not listen to the specifics, not dwell on the specifics of my life, but be able to ponder their own story of who they are in the context of their family tree, you know? Yeah.
Wow. That's so beautiful. I'm thinking all sorts of things right now, but I'm just thinking about sort of the like role of genealogy in scripture.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know,
totally.
And
Such a good point.
Sense of like, I mean, genealogy was at the time like so important. Those sort of questions of where you come from and who your family is and who your tribe is, you know, and yet like we get these like subversive genealogies, right? Where like Rahab is included in the genealogy of Jesus and Ruth and and just these like hints of redemption and genealogy. So maybe like that's one thing I was thinking about with this song is just this sense of like legacy and the degree to which God works on time frames that are so different than our time frames, and like our lives really only make sense like in context.
Yes.
Do you feel like for you, I mean, this has been a journey in your own life.
Totally.
And like, does that feel like a new revelation? Like, to what degree is it like, I could only have written this song in the last few years?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great question. Yeah, I do think it is a newer revelation. And yeah, I just feel like I'm in a long term, we all are, of just like getting more and more healed and growing up and feeling like I'm putting my story together. And again, like I feel like I've said this in multiple episodes, but like the being known side of things, the like sharing my story completely with people so that I even have a better understanding of where I came from, or any of us do, Yes. It's like, it's by speaking that out loud and people are starting to kind of piece that together with you instead of inside your own mind or not facing it at all. I just think we can't get there by ourselves. And I've started to allow more people in that. And therefore to let the hidden things be seen by a few people and work through it. And so I do feel like more recently I've been able to articulate this, but I'm with you on like, I think where we come from, who our parents and our grandparents are, and even just all in scripture where it's like blessings to the 4th and 5th generation and like, the consequences of things stretching that long and there's just such a sense through all of scripture that is important. And I think we are in a day and age that I think there's just a pattern of like, you grow up, you go off to college somewhere, and then you move where you want to go for your career. Yeah. And then you plant there, and then your kid does the same thing. Yeah. And so there's like not a sense of rootedness and the individualistic, you can kind of like, you can see your life as one. And there's a truth to that like we don't have to be bound to, there's some truth that we can choose our own path and like make more of our lives than what we were handed. And I think I want to get there with the conversation too eventually, but it's like, I think what I've been realizing is you actually cannot divide yourself away from your story and who came before you, and that in the weird way you are one. Like you're actually one. You're actually Tiny Habits has this song where they say like we are all sequels to our parents' lives. And so I just think it's like there is some sense of like we are our parents represented again. And so, yeah, I think there's an acknowledgement of that. I can't remember quite what your question was, but I've like just now been able to like put words around that.
Yeah. Well, and it's the sequels to your parents' lives is maybe another, like we've talked several times about like image bearing, the degree, right? And this is like another kind of image bearing, but maybe a like scarier, more problematized version of it. And that it's not like we're sort of like, on the one hand, we're like given new life in Christ and we like are a new start, right? Which you're talking about here too. But in another sense, like we come with a lot that we bring to the table. And, so I'd love to hear you comment on like, to what degree were you thinking about this sort of image? I mean, what's the imprint of their nature?
Yeah. So,
I mean, come on. Where's that?
I mean, what I'm pulling on there is Hebrews 1:3. The Son is the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation of his being, sustaining all things by his powerful word. But yeah, the exact representation. In other translation, I think it's the imprint of his nature. And then, Colossians 1:15, the Son is the image of the invisible God. Yeah, so I'm getting at that. And I'd love to ponder that together for a little bit. Okay. So I think the word that we know, like Jesus is God's son, is maybe like the most familiar relationship or most used relationship in the Bible to describe Jesus's relationship to the Father. Mm-hmm. Right? Would we not say there's like not really one that's like more used than Jesus is God's son?
It's like they never say like coworker.
First descriptor.
Yeah. The main descriptor.
It's like that's mainly his title or his relationship to God. So what I've been pondering about this like mystery for years, this is actually, it came up already in some of these episodes, but this is like my favorite subject, is the fact that Jesus is God is like amazing to me. And I feel like there's numerous verses that talk about this. So at the beginning of John, you've got the Jesus is the Word of God. And I've heard it described as, a thought is invisible until we speak it. Mm-hmm. And so a word is the thought made visible. It's the tangible, now can be seen and experienced, heard and experienced expression of an invisible thing, which is a thought. So Jesus is the Word of God, but it's like, it's the same thing, but expressed, And then we were talking about the light on another conversation, like how it's like he's like the surface that, God is invisible, light is invisible until it reflects upon an object, and that object is the face of Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. And so once again, it's like, it's the same thing, but like, or the imprint of his nature, like a stamp, like it takes the same shape, or it is the same. And so that has made me work backwards towards the word son, if that makes sense. And it's like, I think son and father is more unified than we give it credit for. We think of father and son like any relation, like we think of our parents and us as two separate things. And I think what God is displaying for us actually is that son and father are one, actually, like two expressions of the same thing. Is this making any sense?
Tracking.
Yeah.
Keep going though.
Yeah.
So that's why I think like it's made me, again, like I'm thinking about the way that I'm understanding the idea of God, of Jesus being God's son, and how I think he's actually showing us that they're one, that he's the same as the Father expressed again in another way that we can see him. That's made me understand the idea of a relationship between a father and son as much more unified than being two individual beings. And so actually, in a weird way, that's made me work back towards nature and creation and go, I bet fathers and sons, or parents and children, are actually more one than we give them credit for or consider them. We think, because we are all individual creatures and can all live such completely different lives, and in reality want to distance ourselves plenty of times from our family or others that we're connected to. I guess what I am meditating on or working through, wrestling with this song, is the idea that we're actually one with our family. There's some part of us that's actually one, that is carried in us in some weird spiritual way, that kind of can't be, though it can, certain things can be overcome. And again, I'd love to get there of like, you can go out where no one has been before.
Uncharted.
And we'll get there.
But it's uncharted lands.
Yes. Exactly. You're getting it.
We're with you.
But that like there is an actual strange, mysterious reality that we are inextricably like linked to our family too.
Yes.
Yes.
Kat, the future counselor, is giving a big old nod.
Yeah. I mean, I think, there's a undeniable connection in biologically, certainly. I mean, when you see the imprint in some families, it's like, looks like they did, people say copy paste, it's just like, wow, God just said copy paste for this family. And so we see that physically. And sometimes we can see it physically, like you might see like a picture of like a great grandparent that you didn't know, but you're like, that's so crazy because it kind of looks like so-and-so. So obviously we see that happening in our DNA. And then of course, all of that is also connected to personality traits, conditions. I mean, if you go the gamut of things, isms for sure, any like struggles in that sense of addiction. And then also we see the connection, which I think is what you're getting at, which is like, as much as someone might try and separate from their family for better or worse, like there's all kinds of families. There is that there is that connecting point that in some cases needs to be grappled with, and in other cases we're praising God for, to have that, Yeah, it's interesting because it's like that when we think about Jesus and the Father being one, and then it says that we are one as they're one, which is like a whole other thing. When I think about that, it's the reminder for me of like that the Father isn't this like different type of like whatever, like mean or like, Jesus is like the nice
his
one.
Disposition is not different towards us.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
He's to your point, he is the Word made flesh. He's like the exact representation. He's the image of the invisible God. Like what you are seeing is God the Father being represented,
showing us himself.
That's right, showing us himself through the Son. And then if we go back, and then because I feel like this song helps us kind of keep flip flopping between these two things. It's like if we go back into like in families, like we're like to whatever degree we are a representation of our parents and our grandparents and our siblings, and there's a connection there that's, it's like, I think people know it, but there's a difference between like knowing and understanding, and having like a full, like an experience that helps us to comprehend and understand, that connection. So I just love that.
That's so good. So this song is like about being an explorer, right? Like being like the one who goes out first into a new place. That strikes me as a scary, lonely, wonderful, beautiful, like all of the things. And you kind of say that, like, it's a little bit hard to be the first one. I wish someone had shown me.
Yep.
Right.
Totally.
In the song. Can you talk a little bit about what it's felt like to be a trailblazer?
Yeah. I think, again, maybe I can articulate this, but people will see their own ways that it's like they're kind of doing the best they can on the shoulders of parents who did the best they can, on the shoulders of grandparents that did the best they can, and on back from there. But it's like, I think when I wrote this song, I was flooded with compassion for my family. And I just thought, whoa, my grandparents who had kids so young and such tragedy struck. And then my dad's born out of that. And my dad has just been a miracle his whole life. And he's struggled in a lot of ways, but overcome in a lot of ways. And just like, I just really feel like everyone has done the best they can, and then there's me and my brothers. And I think, the point I'm getting at, the main thing I'm talking about, though there's lots of other ways that I feel like we're pioneering out into new places. Obviously the main one I'm talking about is having a marriage that stays together, because that wasn't the case for my grandparents or my parents. So here are my brothers. I can see them trying to do that. And that makes me cry more than anything, is like seeing the beautiful lives that they are and the homes that they have, and how they're braving out into a place that they didn't get shown how to do that. And they're doing such a beautiful job. And then for me too, it's just like, I've not seen anyone stick it out. And so like, how do I do this? I don't have any good examples. And so, we're in our own, and we're doing great. I think I'm very proud of where me and Kyle are in our relationship, and we're fighting hard for it, and to stay close together no matter what life throws at us. And so, if anyone's worried about that lyric, it's just like, we're good. Let me put your heart at ease. But we are doing something that no one in our families have done before. Yeah. And so, we're out in our own uncharted lands. And I think, there's just loads of places that could be for anyone who's listening, or for you guys. It's just like, that's just the case, that we're kind of handed a certain thing. And I think, all of us have little touch points with like healing ministry or charismatic thinking. And I really love the blessings that has been in my life, and generational curses and breaking things off. And, I think I just want to say kind of both. And it's like, there is a reality of like saying that's actually going to stop here, and I think there's a lot of power in that.
That's right.
Without like shaming or putting down where you came from. Yeah. There's something about like recently, I feel like I'm embracing and grateful for the best that people could give. My parents and my grandparents, and up from that, like doing the best they can. What I've been given is a gift, and just being grateful for that, and not trying to like shame or separate it from it. But also, like that, I do believe in the power of deciding, hey, we're gonna do something different from here. And there's power in that. So it's kind of both and,
In thinking about the kind of the last verse or so, and thinking about kind of the continuation, right, of this line. For, I can speak to how it like feels for me. And I would think maybe for other people too, there is this idea of like, as a parent, you're like, some days you're like, I am doing my darndest, but I brought all my own stuff into being a wife. I brought all my own stuff into being a parent. Yep. And so sorry. You know what I mean? Like there's like a sense of that where it's like, I know for sure my kids are going to have to say, even if I do just like this phenomenal job, like they're going to have to say my parents did the best that they could, and they prayed and they trusted God. But I believe and trust that they're going to be standing on my shoulders, and be able to go even deeper in the Lord, and be able to go even farther, and be even better, whatever. But like have a even better example for their kids, and stuff like that. So I think that that's how that hits me. I don't know if you want to just like speak to that concept as well of like the next generation.
Yeah, I just want to say that like even seeing you sit here and be kind of like the one representing having children, and like being a parent who's already watching like, this is the best I can. And as you're like launching your kids, like I just sat here going like, if my grandmother was sitting in your spot, would she say anything different? Right. So like it was so like meaningful to see you like just kind of choke up and like, I'm just doing the best I can for my kids. I'm just like, certainly every parent or grandparent we have would have sat there and said some version of the same thing. And just like, no one was ever like, I've done an amazing job. They probably are always just going, oh, I hope I don't mess this up too much. And I'm, and I love this one so much. And I love that one so much. And so, I think it was like a powerful thing to allow the song to go even into the unknown future, believing that it's still true, that like, whoever comes after me, of course, that's all I'm dreaming about would be that would be, kids of ours that have to pick up from wherever I'm leaving them off, like, of course that, and then, metaphorically, of course, like, there's some themes in the album where it's just like, we believe God will continue on beauty out of us. Yes. Even if it's not the path that we want it to be, and all of that. But just that concept that like, it's really a humbling thing to realize like, oh, this ain't gonna arrive. That's right. Like there's a lot of lack in everyone. Yep. And then but like still like how beautiful to like fight for new ground.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. And I think like, I mean, to just add to that, there's, as a parent, I'm like, thank God I know you, God. Like that, like to be able to walk through this with you, and to be able to entrust my kids to you, and to be able to point them back to Jesus when I mess up, and just be like, there is someone who loves you even more than I do, and who cares about you somehow even more than I do, and who has never once messed up, and never, ever, ever will. That's sort of like the beautiful thing about like walking with the Lord and having kids, and like, and for all three of us, like we have parents who know the Lord and pray for us and have done the same thing, just like entrusted us to the Lord. And you know, for me, it's not so much a feeling of like, well, I'll just like do my best and hope God does the rest. Like, it's more a feeling of like, actually, all of this is His. You know, I mean, I'll never forget the day that our daughter was born. She's our firstborn, and when she was born, and Dustin was just like, essentially like wanting to just go ahead and like, let's get this over with and just give her to the Lord, in the sense of like, she is not ours. If we can just like rip that bandage off.
Yeah.
Not that it's like a permanent rip
Totally.
off, but like, you know, we were just like already wanting to be like, because you're just so in love with this creature, you know, and you're just like, but ultimately we want you to be the Lord's, because that's the best place for you to be. So there is like such beautiful security in that of like, as a parent who's walking through that. And it's like, I don't know. I think there's something so cool too about, I just have heard other parents who like, you know, maybe in the generation of like our parents who are like, yeah, I like did all that I thought that I could do. And I tried to follow the Lord, but I don't have regrets about it because I've entrusted them to the Lord. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. And it's like, yeah, they're still, you know, these kids might still need therapy, but that doesn't mean that we didn't, you know what I mean? Like, entrust them to the Lord. And I
was talking to a really dear friend of mine who, they just had their second, but right before she and her husband live in New York City. And she said, you know, someone told me recently that like your first child is an accessory and your second child is a lifestyle choice, which I think in New York City is particularly true, because then you have to change your living situation most of the time.
Right.
And we were laughing about that, of course. But I mean, I think about people who increasingly are, for all sorts of reasons, very reticent to have children.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and certainly that is out there. And I think, Jess, you and I have talked about that at different times, like being even a factor in our own lives and needing to wrestle through that. And so I think there's a lot of beauty in this song for people who find themselves there too.
Wow.
The kind of like, what do I make of my own story in light of just like, and in a sense, like uncharted lands for any one of us in our families, but also like what is happening in the world. And like, this is a super scary world to sort of send children into. And how do we grapple with that and think about what it means to sort of raise children to be, you know, like functional humans in the world we find ourselves in. So I don't know. Did you think about that at all? Yeah. Like
That's
would
cool.
love you guys' thoughts on that.
I just think I love that idea that it would like maybe influence people to, and it is me pondering like, do I want to continue this line? You know, do I want to, keep this going? Do I want to put kids out in the world as it is now? And I don't want to prescribe that for anyone, but it seems to be a beautiful thing to participate in. And
I mean, it's certainly an exercise in hope, right?
Yes.
Totally.
Yes.
Totally.
100%.
And I wonder about that. I mean, like, again, we're sort of new to the Anglican thing, and when we got married, we didn't have an Anglican service, but in the Anglican marriage service, you have to assent like that marriage is like the norm for marriage is childbearing, should the Lord like. And I mean, we've counseled people who are going to have and have really wrestled with that. Like, are we ready to assent to like, this is an inevitable, like, this is part of what it means to get married.
Yep.
And whatever you think about that, I think that's like a fascinating thing to think about for the witness of the church going forward is like, as people of hope, does that fundamentally reorient our relationship to childbearing and to the project that it is in a world where it's challenging in all sorts of old ways and in all sorts of new ways.
Yep. Yeah. I relate with that so much. And yeah, we've talked about it on a personal level. Like, yeah, I just didn't have a driving desire to have kids. But as I've aged and as I've really had to like ponder that, yeah, I think early on in our marriage, we were kind of just like, is God calling us to have kids? And then eventually we flipped it, or we started to see it the other way around as just kind of like, is that not God's call from the beginning? Or at least it's like one of the first things the first thing he tells Adam and Eve. And it, again, I'm like, no judgment, and please, listener, like be on your own path as you figure this out. But, but I'm just saying what I, as my experience is like, yeah. So it kind of flipped for us where we're like, we would need the Lord to tell us we're not supposed to have kids and to kind of give us a call into something else, otherwise I do believe that's what he wants for us. So that's where our hearts came around from that for towards that. And then, up out of nowhere for me came this much like deeper, like fundamental thing. Again, not a conscious desire for kids. I was happy with my life, my marriage, my career, our ministry life. It was just exploding with, beautiful things. But up came this real like, do you want to participate in this glorious, messy, risky, hope-filled thing? Which is a really gorgeous thing to ponder, complicated thing to ponder as believers. And I'm really grateful that you just took the convo there.
Yeah.
Because especially if you come from a lot of brokenness.
Yeah.
What a bold thing to say. Yeah, but I'm going to keep making us.
Yes. Right? Right?
Yep.
I mean, every apocalyptic movie ever has like a relationship to having babies, right? Like a weird dynamic.
Totally.
Either like nobody's having babies or you're like producing babies in weird ways. It's just like, there's always weird baby stuff in the apocalyptic movies.
Or you've got Emily Blunt in A Quiet Place where she's
giving birth silently.
Silently while a alien monster enters the house.
Which theirs is like kind
just
of the
dope.
Not that it's a, whatever, it's not allegorical tale, but it is an example though of like, no, we're going to have hope in the midst of brokenness. That would be an example of that. I think kind of tying all this back into everything in the song again. I mean, I think this all ties together no matter what, but I think tying it back into that, I just was thinking about the fact that like, sometimes parents choose to have a child because they're like, we want to have a child. Sometimes parents have a child because that's what happened. Right.
Yes.
But regardless, there's there's something to be said about the hope, whoever you were raised by, whether it was your parents, your grandparents, your adopted, but the hope that those people had in saying, we want to raise you, we want to see another generation, and it honestly doesn't even have to be that list of people. Like it can also be like outside people like, that make a choice to bless you and invest in you and care for you as a child or as an adult. There's kind of this, I don't know, it's a different thing, but there is like an imprinting in that as well, where it's like, I reflect the people that I've been a disciple of. I reflect my peers and my friends that I'm close with who have chosen to have some sort of like motherly, fatherly role in my life. I think that this song can connect even to people who have like
100%
haven't had any sort of because there are people who haven't had any sort of a parental person who they can say, this person chose to have me, wanted to have me, was ready to raise me, and did the best that they could. Yep. But I think that 100% of people that I know have someone in their life who is like, but I want to raise you. I remember someone who was in youth group with me, who's now a pastor, he told our youth pastor when he moved on to a different role, he said, you changed my spiritual diapers. There's kind of this,
wow.
I think in the church, small C and big C, there's just this relationship we get to have of of raising each other, helping raise each other's kids, certainly, but like raising and mothering and fathering in that sense. And it does, like, it imprints and it creates a legacy inside of those, whether they be like official ministry or just like natural discipleship that happens between people.
Yeah.
Oh, so true.
So beautiful. And I think it's just worth it to hope.
Yeah.
You know, and part of the church's job is to like continue to be that hopeful voice in the world. Birdie has realized that it is her dinner time. So I'm going to feed her and we'll sign off for this time. And thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you to Kat and Teal for dropping wisdom after wisdom bomb on us. And that was a little too intense, for sharing so much wisdom with us today. And we'll see you guys next time. Well, hey friends, hope you enjoyed that conversation. And if you really enjoyed it, I hope you'll leave us a comment or a really good review, or you'll send it to a friend that should hear it. If you're looking for me elsewhere, I'm mostly on Instagram, but I have also started a Substack where I'll be sharing prayers and devotional writings and poems, and I'd love to find you over there as well. Before I let you go, I got to say some thank yous. First, thank you to Kat Miller and to Teal Wojcicki for being in this conversation with me. Thank you so much to my husband, Kyle Langdon, for producing and engineering and editing this podcast so that you guys could hear it and see it. And thank you so much to my Patreon community who has funded my music career for the past 5 years. If you're interested in becoming a patron at a free or paid level, I would love to have you on my team and stay more in touch with you. So go to patreon.com/JessRay to sign up. Thank you guys for listening. We're going to catch you next time. Bye.